I share this with you because hopefully this gives you some inspiration. These are think of these as like tent poles to help you understand what the energy is right now and how you can be working with that energy to your benefit. These are part of the intentions that we're setting during this new moon. To say, what can I learn? How can I connect? How can I be a better communicator, a better listener? How can I lighten things up?
Welcome to the Weekly Transit, your guide to understanding the current planetary and astral alignments. Together, we'll explore how to harness these cosmic frequencies, empowering you to reach your highest potential as you navigate the days ahead. I'm your host, Scott Tajarian.
Welcome to the Weekly Transit. This is the week of May 26th to June 1st. This week we are covering 5 transits, highlighted by the new moon in Gemini. The theme of the week is intentions of curiosity. Setting your intentions to be curious. A much lighter week this week, let's hope. Last week, several transits we covered. I don't even know how many there were. 9, 10, 11. Lots of highlights. The Sun and Mercury transited into Gemini. Saturn transited into Aries. This week's a lighter week. We just have one major transit, the new moon in Gemini. And then next week, we're back at it. Because next week, we begin June on Sunday. But next week, we've got 2 planets transiting into new signs. In June, there's 6 planets transiting into new signs, including Mercury twice. Mercury transits into Cancer and then later into Leo in the latter part of June. So there's a lot of shifting, a lot of movement. Next month, or this month, whenever you're listening to this, June. Just by comparison, every other month this year, there's been 3 to 4 planets. One month there was 5 planets that transited into new signs. But in June there's 6. So a lot of shifting here. A lot of shifting. Are you ready to shift the energy? Are you ready to move the energy that's stuck or stagnant within you? You know, the early part of the year, and we talked about this a lot on this podcast, we talked a lot about all these planets in Pisces. They were kind of weighing things down. Now there's just, how many planets are in Pisces now? None. 0. There's just the North Node. So that heaviness we were feeling in the first 3-4 months of the year is now alleviated, hopefully. Because now we have 4 planets in fire, 3 planets in air. 4 planets in Aries, which is fire. We also have Mars in Leo, which is fire. So we really have 5 planets in fire. We have 4 planets in air. 1 planet in earth, and then the North Node in water. So there's been a big shift of the energy. How are you dealing with this shifting of the energy? How are the first 3-4 months of the year in comparison to what you're feeling right now? Does the energy feel lighter? Do you feel more energized? Do you feel more motivated, driven? I think I do. I think I'm feeling more motivated and driven. Not that I wasn't motivated in the early part of the year, but, when there's an elephant sitting on you, it doesn't mean that you're not motivated. It just means that it's harder to move. Now the elephant has lifted, and that motivation has transitioned into greater movement. Is this resonating with you? Are you vibing with this? I'm always happy to hear from you, to hear how what we're sharing on the podcast is resonating with you. I really appreciate it. I had a few nice messages this week from longtime listeners who reached out to me, Instagram, email. I got a nice email this week. Always really grateful and appreciative of whenever you're reaching out to me and just sharing how the podcast is affecting you in a positive way. I'm here to empower and support you. And I hope that's what you're receiving from what we're sharing here. Last week, in the interview portion of the podcast, I had on Alexander Dunlap. Alexander Dunlap, Play Your Cards Right, author of Play Your Cards Right, A Sacred Guide to Life on Earth. I really encourage you to grab this book, Play Your Cards Right. It's a fascinating book. I'm curious to know, when you go to your day, if the card that represents your day resonates with you. Mine certainly resonates with me, which is why I'm so fascinated by this book, and it was so fun to have Alexander on. I'm going to have Alexander back on in a future episode. We're going to look at the Pope, the new Pope. I'm going to look at the astrology for the Pope. And he's going to share the card that is associated with the date the Pope was born. And we're going to compare notes. So that should be fun. Looking forward to that. Of course, the week before, I had on Andrea Lowell, the master manifester Andrea Lowell. So I hope you had a chance to listen to my interviews with both Andrea and Alexander. Both inspiring, fascinating individuals that I so grateful to interview here on this podcast. This week, I'm interviewing Michelle Valles. Michelle Valles is a local news reporter in Los Angeles, the city of angels. And she is an angel, an angel of the people. You know, she's somebody who is really out there in the world, in Los Angeles, on the ground, interviewing people from all different walks of life. Another very inspiring individual with a inspirational story to share. Very open about her sobriety, just as Andrea was open about her sobriety. So really interesting. I've had a lot of guests on that are now sober, that have really gone through it with either alcohol or drugs. And I'm really honored when they want to come on this show and share their story with me and with you. And so I hope these conversations are inspiring to you, and I hope that they give you some insight into the language of astrology, because of course during these interviews I am reflecting upon their astrological codes. So by reflecting upon their astrological codes, that will hopefully give you insight into your own astrological code and deeper insight into the language of astrology, which gives you deeper insight into yourself. I was also back on Delisa Hawkins' channel. We went live again on Tuesday. That was 2 weeks in a row with Delisa. The first week was a surprise. The second week was planned. So that was a lot of fun, as always, connecting with Delisa, the 5th generation psychic. Of course, if you missed that, the link to our YouTube broadcast will be in the show notes. So if you missed it, check that out. Delisa is someone who really gives a lot of insight through speaking with her guides and reflecting on all that's going on in the world. And then, discussing what I'm seeing astrologically and how that relates to what she's receiving from her guides. I'm really excited that Delisa invited me on for every single Tuesday in June. So mark your calendars. Every Tuesday in June, I'm going to be on with Delisa Hawking live on her YouTube channel, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So I'm looking forward to that. Got a really good vibe with Delisa. So let's get into the week. The theme of the week is intentions of curiosity. Setting your intentions to be curious, and that begins with the first transit of the week, which is the highlight of the week, which is the new moon in Gemini. The new moon in Gemini, which occurs on Monday, May 26th at 8:03 p.m. Pacific Daylight Savings Time, 11:03 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. 6 degrees in Gemini, the new moon in Gemini. The new moon is planting the seeds of the coming harvest. The seed of this new moon is Gemini. And Gemini is the mutable air sign symbolized by the twins and ruled by Mercury, the messenger of the gods, guide of souls to the underworld, the planet of consciousness, communication, and coordination. The god of merchants and thieves. Mercury is not too far from the sun and the moon, just a few degrees away in Gemini. So Monday there will be Mercury, the sun, the moon, and Jupiter all in Gemini. So there's a lot of support to be curious. Gemini is the sign of curiosity. It's symbolized by the twins. The twins are very curious. It's like, whoa, wait, what? Am I seeing double? Wow. That's tripping me out. So, what do you want to learn? What do you want to learn? How can you be a better listener? How can you be a better listener? Who would you like to connect with? Who would you like to connect with? What are you curious about? What are you curious about? What excites your curiosity? What stimulates your mind? What gets you thinking? These are some questions to ask yourself during this new moon in Gemini, so that you can set your intentions to ask questions, gather information, listen, receive and process that information, and then ask more questions, gather more information, listen. And as you gather this information and listen, ideas will pop up into your head. And as these ideas pop up, you will be consciously aware when you see other people in your life and you're like, oh, this person is interested in this. I was just talking to that person over there about this. They should connect. They should connect. We're going to clear the air. Set your intentions to clear the air. Set your intentions to clear the air. You know, like if it stinks in a room, you open a window, you clear the air. When you clear the air, if it's stuffy, you open the window. It clears the air. It lightens the air. It lightens the vibe. That's what Gemini does. Gemini wants to keep it light. So this is a very different energy from what we were experiencing with all those planets transiting through Pisces. Pisces wants to get deep. And that depth can feel like a lot of pressure. It can be heavy. You can get dizzy, like you're underwater and like, whoa, which way is up? Gemini is like, whoa, we're up in the hot air balloon. Whoa, woo. It's a totally different vibe. Totally different vibe. Which may be challenging for you if you have multiple planets in Pisces or Virgo. You know, Virgo wants to see it. I got to see it. I got to taste it. I got to touch it. If it's an idea, it's floating around out there. No, I gotta see it. Gotta hold it. Gemini's like, no, we're just talking. This is a time of great communication through active listening, sharing ideas, being open to learn, being open to the fact that you don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. We can learn something new every day. So what would you like to learn during this new moon in Gemini? What would you like to learn? It's also about not getting stuck on one thing. If you find yourself getting stuck, like I swear, Geminis get such a bad rap because they're inconsistent. Not always, but at times they can be inconsistent because they're excited about one thing and then they're excited about something else. Like, give them the flow to just be whoever they want to be in the moment. Give yourself the ability to just go with the flow, to be whoever you want to be in whatever moment. Stevie Nicks is a Gemini. Brian Wilson is a Gemini. Boy George is a Gemini. Les Paul and Chet Atkins are Geminis. All great musicians, singers. Rosemary Clooney. I think of Stevie Nicks, like, you know, she's always got that flowing motion with her dances and her dresses. Yeah. Peter Dinklage is a Gemini. Did anyone watch Game of Thrones? You know, what's his talent in Game of Thrones? You know, he's a dwarf. So he doesn't have like the physical stature, but he's of the mind. He's a thinker. He's very bright. He's a brilliant communicator. He's great at exchanging information. Bjorn Borg is a Gemini. Novak Djokovic is a Gemini. Great tennis players. You've got to be coordinated to play tennis. And Mercury is the planet of coordination. Yeah, the planet of coordination. Planet of coordination. Did anyone ever watch the sitcom Family Ties? Family Ties. I always love when I see this in like a TV family, because I see this in families in reality. And so when they cast parents and children in a TV show that reflect each other's primal triad, I'm always like, oh, wow, that's such great casting. Well, the guy who played the dad, Michael Gross, and the son, Michael J. Fox, are both Geminis. Both Gemini sons. Like father, like son. Like TV father, TV son. Bob Dylan is a Gemini. Think about how many great songs has Bob Dylan written. And it's the words, right? Bob Dylan's like a poet. He's brilliant with his words. Gemini is the communicator, the chatterbox. Sometimes Gemini can be very glib. Can say things where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they said that. Joe Namath, the football player, has done that a couple times. The first that I can think of was when he predicted that the Jets were going to win the Super Bowl. He was the quarterback on the Jets, and he said, I guarantee we're going to win, or something like that. I don't know exactly what the quote was, but he basically guaranteed that they were going to win. And it was the most outlandish thing anybody had ever heard because they were such huge underdogs. And they won. Later, long past his retirement, Joe Namath was inebriated on TV, and he was being interviewed by an attractive reporter, like on the field at a football game, and he told this woman, he's like, I just want to kiss you. It's like, what? He ended up having to apologize for that, and I think he found his way to sobriety. But, those are sort of glib comments. So there may be a sense of glibness. Al Franken, the senator, comedian, who had to resign because there was a picture of him on a plane, cargo plane, with a famous, I think, sports reporter who was like, they were on this tour of the Middle East or visiting, military camps. And they're on this military plane and this woman's asleep, and he took a picture of himself with his hands over her breasts, not touching her, but like they were there. And he's like looking at the camera, smiling. It was a really bad look. This woman's sleeping. And so he resigned, but that's kind of a glib thing to do. Adam Carolla is a Gemini. He's quite the talker as well. Yeah. Gemini. John F. Kennedy. Clint Eastwood. Chris Pratt. Nicole Kidman. John Fogerty. Chris Evans. All Gemini. Rafael Nadal, another tennis player. Gemini. Prince, another great songwriter, musician, multi-talented, could play any instrument. Gemini. Joe Montana. Ice Cube, brilliant communicator. Writer, poet. Kendrick Lamar. Venus Williams, another tennis player. Marilyn Monroe. Dave Navarro. George H.W. Bush and Donald Trump. Born at 21 and 22 degrees in Gemini. Both Leo rising in the 10th house. Paul McCartney, another great songwriter. Brilliant musician. Alanis Morissette, another great songwriter. Angelina Jolie. Johnny Depp and his daughter, Lily Rose Depp, also Gemini. The Olsen twins, Gemini. Zoe Saldana. Miles Davis, another brilliant musician. Jim Thorpe, incredible athlete. Mark Wahlberg. Judy Garland. Steffi Graf, another tennis player. So you get kind of the vibe of Gemini. I list these names because hopefully Morgan Freeman, another Gemini. Edward Snowden, Gemini, wanting to communicate for sure. I share this with you because hopefully this gives you some inspiration. These are think of these as like tent poles to help you understand what the energy is right now and how you can be working with that energy to your benefit. These are part of the intentions that we're setting during this new moon. To say, what can I learn? How can I connect? How can I be a better communicator, a better listener? How can I lighten things up? This frequency is supported on Monday by a second transit. The second transit of the week is Mercury transiting through Gemini. Sextile, a supportive aspect with Neptune in Aries. Neptune is the planet of the unconscious, the god of the sea and fresh water. Neptune is the planet of faith. Mercury is the planet of logic and the conscious. Neptune is the unconscious and faith. Neptune's transiting through the Cardinal fire sign, symbolized by the ram, Aries, helping us reimagine who we are. As we may lose faith in who we are, we're being called to reimagine who we are. Mercury in Gemini is bringing that conscious awareness, bringing that conscious reality to our dreams and fantasies. Maybe it's helping you believe in yourself. And all you have to do is learn. All I have to do is learn. What can I learn about myself? And how can I learn about myself through those that I'm connecting to? This transit of Mercury sextile Neptune is Sunday to Tuesday, with the exact sextile occurring on Monday, May 26th. So there is so much support the beginning of the week, so much support. For you to activate your mind. To activate your mind. Some really beautiful transits this week. When you think about Mars in Leo, that's giving you the courage to follow your heart. And then Mercury in Gemini and Neptune in Aries, along with the new moon in Gemini, is helping activate your mind so that your mind can do what it needs to do in order to support you in following your heart, following your bliss, following your joy. I really hope that this week for you, you're able to clear all those mental cobwebs, everything that's been holding you down. It's like we're really coming out of the clouds now. We're really coming out of the clouds, and hopefully you're able to see things more clearly than you were able to see them earlier in the year. And since you're seeing things more clearly, you're going to be able to move more quickly. When it's foggy, you got to slow down if you're driving the car. When it's clear, you can speed up. There's a second transit with Mercury, so the third transit of the week involves a second transit with Mercury. which is occurring around the same time as the first transit with Mercury. This transit with Mercury involves Pluto, retrograde in Aquarius. So Mercury in Gemini, Trine, Pluto, retrograde in Aquarius. This is happening at 3 degrees, where the Mercury in Gemini sextile Neptune in Aries transit is happening at 1 degree. So that's how quickly Mercury is moving. It goes from 1 to 3 degrees on Monday to Tuesday because the trine with Mercury and Pluto occurs on Tuesday, but you're feeling it from Monday to Wednesday, May 26th to the 28th, with the exact trine on Tuesday, May 27th. But this is another supportive aspect that is really helping you open up the conversation within the group dynamic, the community, the club, the organization, the social network, the social cause, society. You're able to see things more clearly in terms of what is going on in the collective and how I fit into that mix. I can see how I'm different, but I see how I work within the mix. It's like garlic in a dish. Garlic, that's weird, you know? But you put it in a dish and it's like, wow, that's great. Not for everyone, but for me. I like my garlic. Ask Gabriella. So, I really just love the way this week is starting. With the new moon in Gemini, Mercury in Gemini, sextile Neptune in Aries, Mercury in Gemini, trine, Pluto in Aquarius. This is helping you set your intentions to ask questions, to listen, to learn, to reimagine who you are, to cultivate a greater sense of faith in who you are. And through that reimagination and faith in who you are, you're able to see yourself in the collective in a way that feels better to you, where you're like, wow, okay, I see how I am contributing. It's meaningful. That's how I feel when I get a nice message from somebody who's like, I've been a long time listener and really appreciate what you're doing. I hear you and I appreciate receiving that feedback. It helps me see how I fit into the community, what my role is. And so I'm able to be myself in the community, but the community benefits from me being myself. And I, in turn, benefit from the community. So these 3 first transits are really helping you open yourself up to learn more about who you are, to have faith in being authentic, and to be willing to transform the way that you think within the group. Maybe that transformation is being more authentic. The 4th transit of the week, the sun forms a conjunction with Mercury. So this is how fast Mercury is moving now. On Monday, it's at 1 degree aligning with Neptune. On Tuesday, it's at 3 degrees aligning with Pluto. And by Thursday, it's at 9 degrees aligning with the sun. So Mercury and the sun are forming this conjunction from Wednesday to Saturday, May 28th to the 31st, with the exact conjunction occurring on Thursday, May 29th. Mercury has finally caught up with the sun. You'll remember, if you listened to last week's episode, we were talking about the sun aligning in Gemini with Neptune in Aries and Pluto in Aquarius. Now this week it's Mercury. Moving forward now until Mercury is retrograde, a couple months down the road, the sun is going to be echoing the transits that Mercury makes, as opposed to Mercury echoing the transits that the sun makes. But when the sun forms a conjunction to Mercury, so think about this, the sun is the planet of light, life, and vitality. On Monday, the sun was bringing its light, life, and vitality to the moon, the planet of emotions. And the moon, the planet of emotions, was in the sign of Gemini, which is bringing that emotional stimulation to your thoughts. The way that you think and communicate and articulate. Emotional satisfaction to curiosity, to satisfying your curiosity so that your emotions are satisfied. Well, as the sun continues on and Mercury catches up with the sun on Thursday, the sun brings that light, life, and vitality to the planet of the mind. So we're all going to be a little bit smarter from Wednesday to Saturday. Let's hope, anyway. But there's a real brightness here. Really pay attention to your thoughts and the ideas that you're having. Be intentional about who you are sharing the air with. Gemini rules the lungs. There's 2 lungs, 2 twins. Gemini rules the hands, the arms, the shoulders. There's 2 of each of those. So the hands, the arms, and the shoulders help coordinate. You go there, you go here, you can do that. And the lungs give you the air that you need to say what you need to say. But I also think of it in terms of who are you sharing your air with? So be very intentional about who you're sharing your air with on Wednesday to Saturday. Because these are the people that you're going to be sharing ideas with. They're going to be sharing ideas with you. You're going to be sharing ideas with them. Who are you sharing your air with? And how is the exchange of these ideas helping to light up your mind? How are they helping you light up your mind? That's why I say, be intentional about who you're sharing your air with, because if you're sharing your air with somebody who takes the air out of the room, who sucks the air out of you, maybe that's not who you should be sharing your air with. Remember, we want to keep it light. We want to lift each other up. Now, of course, these transits can be challenging. If you were born with key astrological points between 1 and 9, 1 and 10, 0 and 10 degrees, the first 10 degrees of Gemini, or if you were born with key astrological points between in the first 10 degrees of Virgo and Pisces, if you were born with key astrological points or planets within the first 10 degrees of Virgo and Pisces, this week can bring about challenges for you. It can bring challenges for you. So these are the folks that were born in the late 50s, early 60s, because the late 50s, early 60s, Pluto was in the first 10 degrees of Virgo. So, if you were born in the late 50s, early 60s, there may be some challenges for you this week. And lean into it. Be willing to transform. Yeah, literally from 1957 to 1964. If you were born between 1957 and 1964, Pluto's going to be squaring. Your Pluto is going to be squared by either Mercury or the moon or the sun. So be willing to transform. Be willing to transform, especially if you were born between 1962 and 65. Uranus is going to get squared. Your Uranus is in Virgo in the first 10 degrees, and that's getting squared. So maybe something unexpected is happening for you there. Yeah. Yeah, especially like 63, 64. if you were born between 63 and 64, not only is your Pluto being squared by these planets and Uranus is being squared by these planets, but also Saturn. Your Saturn is in the first 10 degrees of Pisces, and that's getting squared by these planets. So you might be going through it this week. Grind down. Keep it light. Keep it airy. Be intentional about who you're sharing your air with. People that are hopefully lifting your vibration if this week is challenging for you. And then the final transit for the week is Venus forms a conjunction with Chiron in Aries at 25 degrees. Venus is Lady Luck, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of relationships. Chiron is the wound, an ancient wisdom which is unlocked through healing that wound. Not unliked, unlocked. Through healing that wound. Aries is the sign of the self. So especially if you were born with key astrological points or planets at or around 25 degrees in Cancer or Capricorn, which square Aries, you might be going through some challenges with your relationships. You're being called to face your fears and insecurities. But there's deep healing here. If you were born with key astrological points or planets in the air or fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini, you're also in those key points or planets are around 25 degrees in those 6 signs, you're also going through a period of healing, but maybe the healing feels more peaceful than if it's a Cancer or Capricorn planet. But we're all being called to really look at what are our greatest fears in our relationships. This is Thursday to Monday, May 29th to June 2nd, with the exact conjunction on Sunday, June 1st. So I really like how this week, like the arc of this week, because you begin in that curious stage. Through that curiosity, you are becoming curious not only about others, but about yourself. Through that curiosity of self, you're reimagining the dream of who you are. If you've lost some faith in who you are, which then allows you to transform the way that you think within the group construct. With Mercury's alignment with Pluto, and then the Sun's conjunction with Mercury is helping you really find the words. And it's really alerting your mind in a way that allows you to listen, to hear what others are saying. And through these conversations, fears may arise. You may come to discover that you have some insecurities about being in partnership, whether it's a lover, a friend, or a business partner. Spend some time asking those questions. Where does this fear stem from? What is at the root of this fear? I never thought I was insecure about fill in the blank, but am I insecure about that? What do my actions show me? How is my partner reflecting this back to me? What do I need to look within myself? Or my friend? Is my friend confident? No? Well then, am I confident? Maybe I need to work on my confidence. Maybe I need to work on my self-love. That's what Venus in Aries conjunct Chiron in Aries is helping us do. helping us reflect on our self-love through our relationships. Through our relationships. Our relationships are maybe showing us how much we love ourselves. Do I need to love myself more? The answer is probably always yes. So with these planets in Gemini, maybe you're asking, how do I do that? How do I learn to love myself more? Who can I share the air with that is confident, that is clear-minded, that knows who they are and what they want? I want to spend time with that person because they're going to help raise my vibration. They're going to help me learn to love myself more. You want to share the air with people that are keeping it light because they are in love with themselves. Not in an arrogant, it's got to be all about me all the time. Not in that way. They don't need the attention, but they receive the attention because they're emanating love. And that's what we want. We all want to be around love because we all want to feel loved. And if you have an aversion to love, then you need to double down to love yourself more, or to uncover what's at the root of that aversion. And when you find it, love it. I hope this is helpful to you. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for listening to me, because I'm just sitting here talking to you. That's why it's so nice to hear from you when you reach back out and tell me your reflections of how you're receiving this information. I hope it's helpful to you. I hope it's empowering you. And I hope it's lifting your vibration through the week ahead. And I'll look forward to reconnecting with you next week.
Thank you for listening to the weekly transit. If you're curious to learn how these transits or any other transits may be affecting you, or if you're interested in learning more about your astrological code, contact me for a reading at theweeklytransit.com. This episode was produced by me, Scott Tajarian. Music written by Ben Leinbach from Listen Deep by Amber Herzog Lyman. Wishing you all the best as you ride the planetary waves.